Hello and welcome to another episode of Good Faith Gaming. I'm your host Ben, and today I am here to talk about all things Pokemon. I'm going to talk about my history with the franchise, and I'm going to talk about the newest game in the series, Pokemon Legends ZA, which I have completed the story, and I want to talk about my impressions and give my final score in the game. But before I do that, I would like to catch everyone up with what has gone on in my life and with this channel. And so, me and my wife had our third child, which kept me from making a video 2 weeks ago. He's a healthy baby boy. His name is Joseph, and he's 8 pounds 2 ounces, and he's, doing what babies do, eating and sleeping, and, we're all thrilled. All right, and I was gonna come out with a video last week, but I ended up getting flu-like symptoms on the day I was gonna record, and so instead of recording and editing and all that fun stuff, I just was in bed shaking. But that did get me thinking about how I want to structure my channel, and I think I'm going to take a page out of Kyle Bozeman's channel where he has seasons. And so what that means is I will have videos for maybe 8 weeks in a row, and then I'll take a few week break, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, something like that. And I feel like that keeps things fresh for me. It allows me to kind of ponder ideas and to come up with things I think are exciting instead of, these are the things I bought type videos, which I do like doing, but I want to come up with more creative ideas than just that. This is the beginning of, I'll say, season 2. My plan is right now to have videos all the way through the holidays because I have a lot of exciting end of the year type stuff I've been working on. So I think that will carry us at least into January. So please look forward to it. All right, and before I get started, I like to shout out something I'm appreciative for. And this week, I appreciate JRPGs in general. I kind of go through these cycles where I like my more Western realistic stuff, but then before you know it, I'm knee deep back in JRPGs. And so right now, I'm still playing Trails in the Sky first chapter. I just finished the second chapter. I'm loving it. I'm going to take a little break to play some other things, including Dragon Quest 1 and 2. I played a little bit of this last night, and man, it's really phenomenal. The music, especially, I find myself not even playing the game, but I'll close my eyes and just listen to the music. It is so good. Another JRPG which hasn't arrived yet but is coming today is Trails of Xillia. This is a remake of the PS3 game. A lot of people say it's their favorite in the series, in the franchise. So I'm looking forward to checking this one out. I haven't played a Tales game since Symphonia, and I think this is a good one to jump into. Also, Final Fantasy Tactics, another one that I'm just waiting for a little opening in my schedule. I've been wanting to play this. If you remember my biggest video game regrets video, I talk about getting this game in the 90s, not liking it because it wasn't Final Fantasy VII, and taking it back to GameStop. So this is a way to rectify that big mistake. The last game in my JRPG appreciation segment is Pokemon ZA. And that will bring me into the meat of this week's episode, which is Pokemon ZA and just my history with Pokemon games in general. And so my history with Pokemon games, it goes all the way back to the 90s, to 98, when Pokemon fever swept America, and I was swept up in that. In 98, I was 14 years old. I remember the anime coming out before the game came out. I think it was like 20 days earlier or something. Now, I was a Nintendo Power Boy, and I remember being hyped up for it. The anime came on like right before we got home from school, so we recorded it and we would watch it. And I remember we had like maybe the first 50 episodes on VHS. I'll be honest, I like the anime more than the first game. And I feel like I was a little bit too old for the first game. It didn't land with me as much as it did with my brother, who's 3 years younger than me. And he got Pokemon Red, and he played it, he beat it, he was really into that game. I was kind of moved on from the Game Boy at that point. The graphics didn't really do it for me anymore. I was already on to the N64 and PlayStation at that point. I was playing Ocarina of Time and Final Fantasy VII and Metal Gear Solid. Pokemon Red and Blue wasn't really my thing. And actually, I kind of grew out of the anime within like the first year of it landing too. I was just a little bit too old for it. And that was my last experience with Pokemon until Pokemon Black and White. And I'm not sure why this was the game I wanted that got me into it, but I had just got a 3DS. I completely skipped the DS generation and got a 3DS. And Pokemon Black and White, I believe, was the newest game in the Pokemon series at that point, so I picked it up. So that's kind of what I do sometimes. If I want to get to a series, I don't go to the beginning like normal people. I'll just jump into the newest one. And I really love this game. I love the graphics. It kind of reminded me of Mega Man Legends in a way, and the story was good. So everything about this game I like. However, this was kind of the high point for a while, because after that we had Pokemon X and Y, and I did not like these games. I thought they were too simple. They kind of had the early 2010s Japanese video game philosophy, which was to hold your hand for entirely too long. Dialogue was unexciting and bland. You know, a lot of games around this time did the same thing. Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword had the same issue, just having like the longest tutorial in history. So this game, I was not impressed with it. It was easy. I just didn't like it. With that said, I did put 40 hours into it. It's ironic though, because after playing Z and A, I kind of want to go back to this because the story ties into Z and A. And now that there's a little bit more meaning behind what the events in this game, especially with Team Flare, I want to go back and at least beat it and see what happens in the story that leads into Z8. And then after that, we had Pokemon Sun and Moon, and it kind of had the same deal. I really liked the environment in this game. It's like a knockoff of Hawaii, but it was just too easy. The dialogue, it was like a kid's game, you know? It's like the dialogue was just not that exciting. And you can have a kid's game that's written well, that appeals to everyone, but in my opinion, this game did not do that. And then you come to the Switch era. This is one I have not played, but my daughter has, and that is Pokemon's Sword and Shield. And I hear that these games aren't much better than the 3DS games, where I don't think people are too happy with this one. I need to check it out for myself one day, but I hear it's pretty mid, so I haven't checked it out. Another game I want to shout out on the Switch is Pokemon Snap, which is, it's not a remake of the N64 game, but it's like a rebirthing of it. And I will say, back in the 90s, I loved Pokemon Snap. I don't know why. I was a boy playing this photo shoot game. I was like 15 or 16, but it was just a lot of fun, you know, like perfecting your run, capturing all the Pokemon and stuff. And so the Pokemon Snap on the Switch, I think, is a better version of that game, and it's really cool. This brings me to what I consider the rebirth of Pokemon. And let's go back to like 2020, 2021. This was a time whenever the Switch first came out, I was in love with it. You know, you had Breath of the Wild, you had Mario Odyssey, you had all these really great games. But around 2020, 2021, you know, the PS5 was out, and I wasn't really into the Switch anymore. In fact, I don't think I played it for like 6 months before this game came out. And I'll just say, I got my daughter Pokemon Legends Arceus for her, I think for Christmas one year. I was watching her play it. I was like, dude, this game looks really good actually. Because it's like a third-person over-the-shoulder Pokemon game. Whenever you battle a Pokemon, you don't go to a separate screen, you just do it right there. So you can throw a ball and capture a Pokemon in the wild. That, to me, was really appealing. It was like this big generational step, but I had been waiting for Pokemon to take for a while. I watched my daughter play this game, and I remember being on vacation one year, and she finished it, and I was like, dude, I really want to play that. So, like, for the rest of the vacation, this was my game. It was 2021. And like after that, it like revitalized my love for the Switch, and it became my favorite console of all time. That led into the next generation of Pokemon. I want to say this is Generation 9, and that's Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I know these games are controversial for a lot of people, and I'll say something controversial, that I love these games. The graphics aren't great. You know, I'm someone who grew up with the N64 and playing stuff like GoldenEye 4-player co-op, which ran at like 5 frames a second. And so playing like a Pokemon game with like inconsistent frame rate and stuff, I don't know. My brain can fill in the gaps, and I'm cool with it. There's a lot of bugs, especially with like the multiplayer, like 4-player raids you can do. Like those freaking sucked or borderline unplayable. But if you're just playing these games by yourself, I had a lot of fun with them. I had a lot of fun going around and getting all the Pokemon in this big open world. And now that they're on Switch 2 and a lot of the problems with these games are fixed now, I think they're really excellent games that hold up really well. If you didn't play these because of performance, and I really can't blame you, they're worth checking out now on Switch 2. Like, big shout out to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I think these are excellent games. They're much better, in my opinion, than the 3DS games. They don't hold your hand as much. I will say one thing about these games is they're too easy. Some of the gym masters were a joke. Like, you just beat them like any other enemy, basically. And so I kind of wish like the gym masters scaled a little bit, you know, took into account your level. The difficulty issue in these games was solved in Pokemon Legends ZA. Right off the bat, I'll say this game it's a challenging game. Like, there were times when I battled someone and just got my butt kicked because I didn't have equipped the right Pokemon to counter whoever I was fighting. I'll also say that this is such a combat heavy game. The game is structured by you leveling up. You're going from rank Z to rank A, especially towards the higher end ranks from like E to A. Man, between like each level, you're battling so much, and you'll just battle your friends, and it's like, hey, let's like all battle right now. And I actually really like that. And some of the battles are challenging, especially some of the ranked battles, and it was greatly appreciated. And I'll say the combat in this game is freaking fantastic. It reminds me of Final Fantasy VII or any of like the active time battle JRPGs from the 90s. It's not turn-based anymore. Your Pokemon's fighting and you get to press the buttons like in real time and you get to watch them charge, and it's just like Final Fantasy VII or Chrono Trigger, where it's active time and you actually have to pay attention to what's going on. And I died several times just because I was pressing buttons out of order and I had to strategize better. Right off the bat, this game tackles some of my issues with Scarlet and Violet. And so I think the gameplay is honestly the best in the series. You know, I'll always cherish turn-based games, and I don't want all turn-based games to go away, but how they did it here is really good. A lot of people rag on this game for the graphics, and yeah, like the city, it's not like the best looking thing ever, but I think the character models in particular look good. Some of the animations are really good. And you know, if they scale back some of the details in the city in favor of like boosting performance, I think that's the smart thing to do, especially after people had such a problem with the performance in Scarlet and Violet. I'm okay if they held back their ambition just a little bit in order to make the game run at a smooth 60, and it does. And like the resolution's really high too. And so I think it's a fine looking game. Pokemon's never been like a graphical showpiece. You know, the first one was like an old Game Boy game, you know, that came out in '98, and it didn't look that great at the time. Another thing I'll say about ZA is the story is actually really good, especially towards the end. It kind of becomes epic. When I finished it, I was like, damn, I kind of want to go back to X and Y just to see what happened, you know, 5 years previous in the story. So yeah, Pokemon ZA, have you played it? What did you think? If I had to rank it right now, it'd be like around a 7 or 8. I'm kind of leaning, honestly, closer to 8 just because of the gameplay improvement. I will say the one thing that like holds it back massively is the lack of voice acting. Because there are so many scenes in this game that are fully animated, but you got to read the dialogue at the bottom. And so it doesn't sync up the way it's presented. You expect there to be voice acting. And maybe they don't have to do voice acting for every single line of dialogue, but I think there are some key scenes where they could, and just make it sound like the anime. You know, I think a lot of people would like that, especially younger gamers. I think that would go a long way. Another shout out in this game is the music. The music's really good. I was kind of like humming it for a few days. It's very jazzy. And so, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. I didn't have hardly any expectations going into this game, but I watched my daughter play it. I'm like, I kind of want to play Pokemon ZA now. And so I think the Pokemon Legends series, the 2 games so far, are really awesome. I hope that Legends Arceus gets a little love for the Switch 2 because it would look really good at 60 FPS. But yeah, that is my history with Pokemon, and that is my review of the new game. All right, and that does it for this episode. Please join me again next week. I plan on doing something for the 25th anniversary of PlayStation 2. I'm going to talk about my top 10 games for that console. I'm excited for the rest of this year for my videos, so please be excited too. And until next time, have a good one.